Thanks for watching Numbskull News, and today we're going to talk about the controlled demolition of the ACC. According to Josh Pate, that may very well be what's happening. And of course, what Josh Pate was talking about was that big forces want FSU out of the ACC. The ACC is going to lose more than just Florida State and Clemson. Essentially, they're screwed. I believe there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I've made several videos, even one called The Controlled Demolition of the ACC. That was a little bit different. Let's get into this. And I'm going to use a visual aid, all right, to help me break this crap down, what I think is going on. And I'm sure in the comments you'll let me know how much of an idiot I am. So let's get going. Now, as we all know, all right, the ACC, Florida State and Clemson, they're suing each other. Florida State and Clemson, of course, won out. People keep asking, hey, they need to come to some kind of settlement, right? So there needs to be some negotiations about a settlement. But you cannot have negotiations about a settlement without ESPN. So let's throw them in there. Here's the issue from the ACC side. If they let Florida State and Clemson out, regardless of dollar amount, all right, there's going to be a big fat freaking issue, because once Florida State and Clemson leave, the ACC is going to lose money on the ACC network. A big chunk of that is going to go away. It's a lot of money. ESPN will then want to pay the ACC less because they don't have Florida State and Clemson. Plus, you're expecting a $13 million a year per school payout from the CFP starting in 2026. That's going to get slashed. So you're going to lose money across the board, not to mention corporate sponsors and all that. So that's a big problem for everyone else left in the ACC. Most notably, UNC in Miami are not going to want to make all of this less money, right? They don't want to take that kind of a hit. It has been suggested, and it's not going to work, but it's been suggested that you can do an unequal revenue split between the rest of the ACC schools, where UNC and Miami make more money, all right? Or I would say not what they make now, but probably more than that. Here's the problem. Okay, NC State, all right, are they going to make less? There might be a problem with the Board of Governors. Virginia Tech, they ain't going to want to make less. Louisville, Pitt, they don't want to make less. So now you're asking Syracuse, Boston College, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech to take just a small cut so that everyone else can make more. You see what I'm saying? You're gonna have too many disgruntled people. It's never going to work. Unequal revenue sharing for UNC and Miami won't work. So these two are going to say, you know what? Get us the hell out of there. I believe what ESPN wants is to put Florida State and Clemson into the SEC. I've gone over this time and time again. It's just too much money, too much viewership, too many premium matchups. And with a streaming future, Florida State and Clemson makes the most sense. So that's what I'm going to go with in this scenario. You can change it up. I'm just trying to give you an overall picture of the negotiations, which are, I am sure, are a major pain in the ass, because there is just so many different people that are going to eventually have to be involved, and I'm going to get into all that. But let's say they go with this little scenario right here. Now, you may say, like I said, the SEC would rather have UNC and, Virginia or whatever. ESPN would eventually, everything's a negotiation, right? SEC has a little leverage over ESPN here. So if I'm ESPN, I'm like, look, you want us to pay for that 9th conference game, which we are unwilling to do. However, you take Florida State, you take Clemson, and we will pay for a ninth conference game. Well, but that still leaves a problem with UNC and Miami. That's when you bring the Big Ten into these negotiations. You're going to need them. You're trying to get the majority of these schools, if not all of them, on board with this negotiation. Because it's not just about getting 2 schools out. It's about trying to satisfy everybody in the ACC, including having to rebuild the ACC, which we're going to get into later on in this video. You're going to have to rebuild it because you need the smaller schools on board to sign on. It's just going to be difficult. So, one of the ways you work the negotiation, then you bring in Fox. Say, look, do you want any of these schools that aren't Florida State and Clemson? And I think it's been speculated, and I think we all agree, they would love Florida State. But I don't think ESPN's going to be willing to give them up. Now, they really want Notre Dame. That's a whole nother video. But they probably wouldn't mind. They want to get to 20. And I think they would love Florida State and Notre Dame. Both are going to be unattainable for right now. So what do? I think the Big Ten goes to their fallback plan and they take Miami because they want to get into Florida. Florida is very important for the Big Ten. It's not FSU, but Miami is nothing to sneeze at, and I do believe Fox likes them. That's what I've been hearing. You got UNC just sitting here, shitting in the breeze. You got to do something with them. And look, a lot of people think UNC, the thought of UNC going to the Big 12 is ridiculous. Here's the next situation, the next problem, okay? Regardless of Miami going to the Big 10 or not, or UNC going to the Big 12 or not, let's say they both go to the SEC, or they both go to the Big 10, or one to the one and one to the other. However, but they're out of the ACC. It's a domino effect, people. Now the money from all of the ACC's revenue sources now take yet another hit. And everybody left in that conference is taking now even less money. So that means Louisville, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Pitt, NC State. Do you think they want to stay and make even less money? We're talking on par with somewhere around $20 million less than the Big 12 a year in total payouts. Maybe more. I seriously doubt it. Now, they're going to be bitching and moaning to get out. At this point, ESPN is going to need Fox to work with them to get teams into the Big 12, the teams that they want on that level. So let me take UNC on out of here just for right now. Let me put them up here so we don't have that argument right now. I still think Miami to the Big 10. ESPN is probably fine letting a big school go to the Big 10, save a little money. And by the way, I'm going to put NC State right here next to North Carolina because there's a problem with the Board of Governors there. Those two is going to be hard to separate, but I'll get to that in a minute. Now, Fox, ESPN is going to want Fox to take some teams. Who are we talking about? All right, everyone's talking about teams like these, right? Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt. All right. That would super make West Virginia happy. The Mountaineer fan and the Mountaineer Nations would love that. Now, if I am Fox, though, and there's a reason I use this logo, the basketball college hoops logo, because they got involved with the Big 12, because one, they wanted Big 12 basketball on Fox. Two, they love the parody of the Big 12. That's been written a long time ago when the deal was made between the Big 12, ESPN, and Fox. So that's what they wanted from the Big 12. So at this point, I got leverage. Of course, they either do or don't take Miami. That's just my speculation. But to get involved, if I'm Fox, there's certain things I'm wanting because you got to be able to make this work. You got to get people out of the ACC and then rebuild it. And get everybody on board, ultimately to get Florida State and Clemson out and get the negotiation done. So if I'm Fox, I'm wanting the biggest college basketball rivalry in the country, the one that gets the biggest numbers. That would be Duke versus UNC. That's what I want. I want that matchup at least a couple of times on Fox. They don't get it now. It's an ESPN property. I want that on Fox. Not to mention, NC State seems to be tied with UNC. So we can just move them right on over there to the Big 12. No problem, because I don't believe at all that the SEC, ESPN, the Big 10, or Fox wants NC State in the Big 10 or the SEC. I think that's just that's a few steps too far for them to pay NC State like that, even at a half share, which would eventually be a full share. Now, if you notice, that's 6 schools, 6 brands going to the Big 12. I don't think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be somewhere between 4 and 8 schools. I'm going to use 6 as my example, but in this scenario, Pitt won't be one of them. I know, it's a shocker. It'll be this right here. Virginia, Virginia Tech, Louisville, and of course, UNC, Duke, NC State. To me, that's what I think is going to happen. That would satisfy Fox. They would be all in on board with that. They may even kick up the money a little extra to make this happen. You can disagree. You could throw in other schools if you want, but something like this is in the works. Remember, a lot of these people in this scenario have leverage in different ways as they are needed to fix certain problems with these negotiations. So the schools at the bottom, the schools that are left out of Big 10, SEC, a lot of those can go into the Big 12, but there's going to be a rather large contingent of schools that don't get in even to the Big 12. They're going to have to stay in the ACC, and you're going to have to make it worth their while. Now, keep in mind, there will be payouts. Florida State and Clemson are going to have to unask probably a large sum of money to get out. Let's just say it's $250 million per. They can pull that off. Let's say these other schools that go to the Big 12. Let's say it's half of that, $125 million. Well, the Big 12 is building a war chest. I've talked about it before. The CVC, that company, they're coming in with private equity, $1 billion. And with that, you could basically make everybody whole. Because you may ask, hold up, why is it only half as much per team? Why do I think it'd only be half as much for those teams to go to the Big 12? I'm looking at it like Florida State and Clemson. Because like Josh Pate, what he was talking about, this will be, we'll hear something in the next 9 Saturdays. 9 weeks. Just say 9 weeks. Anyway, he's saying 9 in the next 9 weeks. I'm like, if we're going to hear something like that and some things get decided, you can see Florida State and Clemson in 2025, the next football season, entering the SEC. Or the Big 10, if you want to look at it like that. However, what about these other schools? I would say you make a deal with them. You stay in the ACC till like 2028, and you can get out with half the cost. But how do we rebuild that ACC to make everybody happy? Well, here are the remaining, I don't want to say leftovers, but remaining ACC schools. Wake Forest, Boston College, Georgia Tech, yes, Pitt. Pitt can very well get left out. I mean, you're going to kick NC State out. That may not be able to happen. You want to replace, as far as teams going to the Big 12, replace Virginia Tech, Virginia, Louisville. I don't think you do. I don't think you do. That's the only reason I'm putting them up here. SMU, Stanford, Cal, and of course Syracuse. Now, here's the question. Does this thing have to get back up to 14 or 15 schools? And we'll talk about Notre Dame in a minute. But does it have to get back up there? I don't think it does. I think when you renegotiate this thing, if I'm these schools here, I'm like, okay, all these schools are leaving us. We're having to backfill now. And we're going to get all of this payout money, this buyout money from all the schools that are leaving. We don't want to have to share that too much. Okay. We don't want to have to share it too much. So this is 8 schools. Let's say they go to 10 and stay there. All right. ESPN can approve that. No problem. Say, okay, no problem. We're going to knock you down a peg anyway as far as your money. So, yeah, just add 2. Now, what 2 do you add? A lot of people like Oregon State and Washington State. I don't know if a lot of these other schools want to make yet another trip all the way to the West Coast. I know Stanford and Cal are be making multiple trips to the East Coast, but that's what they signed up for $10 million, a piddly ass $10 million a year. And of course SMU making nothing. However, I got a better idea. I think Memphis and the South Florida Bulls makes a ton of sense here. You're staying a little more geographical. I know that doesn't help out travel with Stanford and Cal. They would have a decision to make, of course, whether they want to do this or try to go back to the Pac, try to make that work with Oregon and Washington. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But at this point, you're getting a lot of payouts. ESPN would then re-up till 2036 with, I'm saying, these 10 schools. Take those out. So these 10 schools right here until 2036. Let's say they're getting paid by ESPN 17, 18 million a piece. Well, that doesn't sound like a lot. I get it. And at that point, the ACC network is basically toast. There's no money coming out of that anymore. We've lost too much. Here's an interesting thing, though. Could you, if you're ESPN, and ESPN working with Fox with all this, can you get the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 to say, hey, let them keep their auto bid until 2036, then you can revisit it? I think something like that can be arranged. So if these 10 schools can get all of that buyout money, and of course that's more money every year until 2036, till all those schools have paid their buyouts, each one of these schools can end up making somewhere in the neighborhood of $30+ million a year. Now 2036 it changes, but live sports is still very valuable. Could these 10 at that time get a media rights deal that pays them somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 million a year per school? Very well could. So this version of the ACC can actually survive for a long time. And if they solidify and get stable like this, then, maybe there is some kind of, I don't know exactly a naming rights deal, but definitely other corporate sponsors that can get on board here with these schools. So this could actually go to satisfy everybody. Florida State and Clemson get what they want. Fox gets what they want. The Big 12 definitely get what they want. And I think that's the most important thing. And the ACC is allowed to survive. Now, do they keep their autonomous status? I'm not sure. Possibly with the SEC, Big 10, and the Big 12 could possibly talk to the NCAA and say, look, let them keep their autonomous status. Revisit it in 2036. Maybe at that time they lose it. And they'll probably definitely lose their auto bid at that point. So, but until then, everybody's doing great. Everybody's making good money. And the money that the Big 12 gets from their private equity partner, whenever that happens, that can help pay for Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, NC State, Louisville, UNC, help with pay their buyouts, make them whole. And then in 2031, the Big 12, Is it inconceivable with those group of schools with what you already have that you could double your media rights payout? According to CVC, it's kind of what it looks like. So in closing, it's complicated. And I'm sure they've been working on it for a while. I'm sure there's third-party talks going on all over the place. But exciting shit. I can't wait to see what happens. This, of course, is all of my speculation on what could possibly happen down the pike. And those are the 6 schools that I think are more than likely to get into the Big 12. As far as Pitt goes, I mean, somehow ESPN and Fox want to pay for 8 ACC schools to come on over. I think Pitt is in there. Pitt is a big question mark. It just is. It depends on who is going to come to the Big 12 and who isn't. Whether or not Pitt finds its way. That's what I think. Everyone's like, oh, no brainer. I don't know about that. I don't know about it being a no-brainer. So, but that's all I have on this crap. And as far as, by the way, I almost forgot. I almost cut off the video. Notre Dame. They're going to have a couple different options. Maybe more options than I'm thinking. Would they stay in that version of the ACC? I don't think they would. I think they're either coming to the Big 12, all sports except for football, play 5 games. Same kind of deal that they have currently with the ACC. Or join the Big 10. All right, and cash out. Or would the Big 10 do a partial, like the same kind of deal the ACC has, but do it with the Big 10? From what I've heard, and this is mostly from Big 10 fans, they're not interested in that. It's all or nothing. However, the conference may feel different. They do have Notre Dame hockey involved. So why not get all the sports, have play 5 games a year with the Big 10? I don't know. We'll see if that happens or not, but that door may be cracked open a little bit. Who knows? Or maybe it's the Big 12. Or maybe they just say, screw independence. We're going full bore Big 10. Like I said, it's a lot of crazy stuff that's coming up. So we'll all be here for it. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap, and I'll be back with some more crap later. Bye.